we launched our acquisitions advisory platform, and a lot of people ask me, what would that look like to scale such a business where you're advising buyers and sellers in acquisitions? Like at this point, we were involved in almost $1 billion worth of transactions as an advisor or investor as well in the last few years alone. And it's a very fair question. Like, what do you do if you want to take it from a one-man show? Is it even scalable, right? Like, can you go from doing few deals a year on your own into making it a bigger business that makes, let's say, millions a year like we did? Well, the short answer is yes, right? We did it. But then let's go through this video on how, right? And why I'm even saying yes. I mean, just think about companies like Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan. They are basically acquisitions advisory companies with tens of thousands of employees. So the scale it can get to is unlimited. Like, they're making billions of dollars as advisors for massive companies, right? But it still is the same game. Like at our peak at acquisitions.com, we had a team of around 40 people doing just that. I decided I want to focus mostly on roll-ups and investments. So advisory at this point is kind of like a by the way secondary thing for us, where we just want to make introductions to people in emails, in our network, and even then we can earn from 1 to 10% of the deal without necessarily doing much of the work, just because of the network that I built over the years. But like, I won't necessarily at this point go and do hard outreach efforts to scale it like we did in the past, right? But it definitely made sense for us to use the acquisitions.com brand and to build this advisory offer so people out there could learn what we did and they could scale it to where they want, or at least make like a great side income or even full income from this. Plus, they'll have the option to be involved with us in deals on our roll-ups, or to send deals to our network of buyers. So it's kind of like win-win for everyone. We teach people, we'll show them the process, we'll give them access to our brand, kind of like a brokerage firm, and there's an opportunity for partnerships with everyone. Like, for me personally, I'm at a point where I rather do like hard outreach and put my focus to build another roll-up versus like a broker another acquisition deal, right? So it just depends on where you're at in your career and life. Like, are you in a point where you're looking for a new opportunity, you want to make just a bit of an income, or like everyone got different goals? And I think being an acquisition advisor is great for beginners or people who don't necessarily want to operate companies, but it's great for people who want to do kind of like make great income just from pretty much connecting people. Anyway, so if you want to make advisor your only thing and main thing, like, and scale it, how would you do it, right? That's the question of this video. Well, there are a few things that need to scale any business, but I would say sales is the most important to start with, which let's focus on in today's video, because without doing sales and bringing revenues, there's nothing to scale to, right? So let's focus on this one to start with. And I mean, look, if you think about stages of any business, right? Because acquisition advisory is a business like anything else, but it can be more of a one-man show or more of a, let's say, more of a remote type business, right? But if you think about stages of business, there's few stages. So let's go through some of those. So it starts with putting some kind of a focus on a problem that you're solving, right? Like any business, you got to have a problem that you're solving, and it's got to be a real problem that you're solving. And then what we call it, you need to have some kind of a minimum viable product or service in our case to offer. And when you have those two things, the next step is you need to get someone to pay for it, right? Either a retainer or a percentage of the deal. Then there's some kind of a loop that you need to create with more people, and then repeat the process to create more success, right? That's business in a nutshell. But at first, obviously, it's all about getting in front of people, and you tell them, hey, look, I think you have a problem, or we got in touch and it sounds like you have a problem and I can provide a solution. And to start with, I suggest that you can't outsource that behavior, that sales process to other people. You need to do it. And I don't care, like a lot of people say, but I'm shy, I don't want to put myself out there. I mean, look, if you want to be in business, business is a race, right? You got to do it. No one will care about your business or your income like you are. At least in the beginning, no one will. Even later, but later you can have processes and keep people accountable, but you know how to keep them accountable for, like, because you know the basics at least. So having those, call it commercial conversations initially, is critical to grow, especially when it comes to making commissions as acquisition advisors. I don't think that you can hire and put salespeople on a business before you've proven that you can make it work. Otherwise, they'll come to you for advice and you'll be like, oops, I don't know what I'm doing. So you need to have the information in your brain first and only package it later when there's a repeatable process that you can share with other team members. So you need to know, obviously, what you're selling, right? Which in our case is, like we said, is supporting buyers or sellers of businesses and as an advisor. So you need to learn to pitch and sell yourself. Then over time you can train others to sell as you want to scale and build kind of like a downline team of others below you. So over time, like we said, you can package it, scale it, and create a repeatable process. That's the process of scale. It's after you know the process, right? And the way you then scale up is hiring more team members. And I suggest you hire, let's say, 2 at a time at least. And if they do well, first of all, you hire at least 2 so you could compare them and you don't just have one reference point. Then if those 2 people do well, you hire 4. If they got it well, you hire 8, etc., right? And you continue the process and try to make sure that everyone is following the same process. And you know you can scale and hire when you reliably turn first meetings, let's say, into customers. Let's say at least 10% of your leads turn into actual customers. So take 50 at a bat or 100 at a bat. Like you gotta have some cohort. Ask yourself, like, every cohort of people you talk to, let's say every cohort of 10, are you closing or working with at least 1 or 2 clients of those? And when it feels like it's repeatable and it's safe bet to outsource or hire more people to others, then you can start thinking on this process of hiring and scaling it all. So there's a bunch of stages in business like this. You sell yourself, you then get 2-3 others to reliably sell successfully as well. Then you get the opportunity to scale it to, let's say, 10 people. Like at our peak in acquisitions.com, we had like 20 basically team members just doing sales, finding more deals, right? In our advisory business, and then another 20 or so supporting the actual deal after we get the deal, right? After we get the listing, then to work with them. And when you're there, you still need to constantly iterate the sales process and the script. Like, it's a never-ending work when you try to scale a business, right? You constantly want to make it better. So you want to constantly be updating your sales process, constantly train your team, constantly listen to calls. And one of the most important things when hiring a team is focusing on those leading indicators to success to know that you can even scale. So you look at your team, and if they don't move like 2-3 people into closing conversations from every 10 that they're talking to, then you need to change something, right? Something is missing. Your message is not landing, or maybe they talk to the wrong people. So you'll want to see your team having at least, let's say, 2, 3, 5 customer facing conversations every day. And a lot of people might be newbies that come to work with you, and so it might feel weird at first. Maybe if they're not used to it, or even if you're not used to do sales, it might feel weird to do like 5 conversations a day. At my peak, I remember I had like 15 conversations a day, calendar full of calls, right? But it becomes a habit if you make that a mindset change. You just make a mindset change. You say, this is who I am, this is what I do, and you just fill your calendars with work. And over time, you make that behavior better, right? You become better at the work. You get consistent with your work, and you become better at the work. And in general, to get better at sales, or when you train a team, I think the best skill you can tell them or to yourself is to learn about just the focus on learning how to become friends with everyone. Like every new person you meet in the street, can you become friends with them as soon as possible? That's probably one of the best things you can learn. So that's one of the skills. Other skills you probably need to learn are like rapid rapport building, which is pretty much that. You gotta learn how to ask good questions. You gotta learn how to ask good follow-up questions, or in general, follow up and stay consistent and not give up. You gotta be willing to ask uncomfortable questions. You gotta be willing to ask for money. You gotta learn how to shut up when the other side is actually interested. And you gotta learn how to wait for them to answer, right? So it's kind of like a push-pull type situation when you're having conversations in sales. And in our case, getting the buyer and seller to work with you. So all those can be uncomfortable things that the more you do, the more you'll get better at them, right? Like anything in life. After you do a lot of them, it will become just a second nature to you. Right, so after we understand that, what's then? How do we continue to scale? Well, you need to find the people that you want to work with through discovery. So it's kind of like finding the ideal client, the buyer or the seller. You then reveal to them that there's a better way to solve their problem, either to buy a business or to sell a business. And you have the solution to it, right? And in our case, again, finding buyers and sellers, because the biggest challenge you'll have and I'm going through that because it's a reminder that the biggest challenge you'll have in business and in scaling is I see a lot of teams just talking to the wrong person. Right? So you talk to the wrong person and you spend time on the person that, like, let's say you want to work with a seller and help him sell his business, and you talk to a business that don't even have a business. You talk to a person that don't even have a business, or you talk to a person who's not even interested in selling his business, you're just wasting your time. Right? So you gotta find a way to allocate your time best. So ask yourself, who's the ideal client? Who got my problem? Who got the problem that I need to solve? And why? How can I make sure that I'm not wasting time on people who don't have the situation, the problem that I'm looking to solve? And then when I find the right person, how can I look back again and again and again with follow-ups with those who got the problem that I'm trying to solve? So, summary, how do we scale this acquisitions advisory business? First, you figure it out on your own. You get the first 10, 20 customers, first 10, 20 listings. After that, you teach new people. You train like 1 or 2 people. You get them to be good. You then train 4, 6, 10 people. You can even get your first 2 people to train them, and you give them some kind of an override if they train others. As far as hiring, I suggest in those roles, early stage selling require early stage sellers, right? Like if you're gonna, you need people who are willing to grind after you prove you can do it. If you're gonna bring like super executives that only want to manage people, they're not gonna do the work, you're gonna lose. Now, how to know if those people that you bring, they're good or not? So assuming that you are able to sell repeatedly and sold, let's say 20, 30 deals on your own, and you have proof that you did it, then you go and bring at least 2 at once is important. You bring them and you look at their activity levels. You look at where they're winning or not, right? And you look at the action, the leading indicator actions, right? And you ask yourself also, did I give them everything they need? Did I give them all the assets to support them? If it's a script, a demo deck, anything that will help them. Like I want to make sure that I train them like a 5-year-old kid, and then I want to make sure that they did the leading indicator actions. Like, are they talking to enough people? Are they moving enough meetings forward? Are they leading the conversation? Are they being active daily? Like, are they good at getting second meetings and doing follow-ups? Like, this will give you a view if it works or not with them early on, right? Those leading indicators to know if they're doing the work, even if they're not necessarily closing. So they need to learn sales motion, and you need to audit them as fast as possible. Like, the faster you give them feedback, the faster you will be able to grow, right? So ask yourself, can I listen to them daily or be next to them in meetings daily instead of just weekly feedback? Like, the correction loops gotta be faster, or even correct them like immediately after their call every day versus at the end of the day, right? Because in the beginning, especially when you try to start a business, it's a race against time. You gotta run fast, you gotta build the momentum, and when the momentum is built, everything is kind of like on a cruise. Like, it's much easier to slowly grow, but the beginning you gotta push hard. So the more distance you create between learning and having these training loops, that's kind of like, it's what you need to get better, right? You gotta shorten the distance. So to summarize, don't be afraid of sales. I don't think you need to be born salesperson to be good at it. Good communication and persuasion is, all of those can be learned and help you help others. And obviously you gotta learn what is important to them. Then if you can learn it, you'll have the confidence to teach others, and you can then scale at least the top line revenues. After you're able to scale the top line revenues with a lot of sales team and good marketing, then you'll have other challenges like operations, processes, finance, but we'll get to that when we get to that, right? And if needed, I'll create another video on that. So in the meantime, go create the world you want. It's your life, don't give up. I love you. Bye-bye.